Okay, there we go. Hello, welcome everybody. We are live again for the Vintage Bash show number 7 now. So hopefully we're getting slightly better at this. So yeah, welcome online. I think Anthony's already online having fun at his morning kids sports. So hopefully we can entertain him. So yeah, again we've got the Bash crew. We've got Mr. Luisola, Lou, and Aaron Defina, Mr. Daff. And this week we've got two special guests all the way from live from the US. So we've got Ruben, top corner there, from Rubrics, and we've also got Dan from Dragon Punch RC. So welcome, guys.
Hello.
So yeah,
Welcome to the future.
Very cool.
Today here is the 23rd of August, and you guys haven't seen the 23rd yet.
No. What's it like out there?
That's amazing.
I'll get you a lot of numbers.
I was just going to ask that. Dang it. Yeah. It's, the Ladder right now is 700 million US. Right
Yeah, okay.
So
We'll go your halves after Texas.
I'll tell you what, if I win, I'll throw some of your guys' way. Vintage Bash forever.
Brilliant.
Dear.
So so for those that don't know, Ruben is the owner of Rubrics. Dan's the owner of Dragon Punch RC, and they've both generously come on board this year for our Vintage Bash 4. So they're sponsors of the event, so helping us bring all of the media and everything that needs to be done and paid for as part of this sort of event. So that's very cool. And today we're going to chat about all sorts of random stuff, probably. Bit about them, about the companies, how they do RC and vintage. So we'll probably get stuck into it. I guess Ruben, we'll start with you. If you'd like to tell us a bit about yourself, first RC car, how you got into it, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, well, hi everyone. Thanks for having me on the show and or live cast, whatever you want to call this.
Yep.
So
Gathering of nerds.
Yeah, it'll get better. It'll get better for sure. So going back to RC, I can probably take this to 1991. When I was in Europe, because I'm originally from Europe, born and raised in Spain. My father was in the Air Force, and I was a product of a move that my family made there. And RC in Spain was really big back then. So going through initially through magazines, my dad being in the Air Force and me being on the base all the time, going through magazines, came across some magazines and going through them. Spotted, the airplanes actually is what first got my attention. RC planes, and I was 11 years old. So the first thing that I thought is maybe I should get one of these and start playing around. That'll be very interesting. But talking through some friends of my dad that were in the hobby, they discouraged it because they were looking out for me. They were like, no, you may not want to do that now. For one, it takes forever to get those things assembled. You're going to need a lot of help if you don't have any experience. Let's maybe get you into cars, and I had already been playing around with the toy grade cars and remote control cars. And so they thought, let's get him in front of a catalog with, some 8th scale cars is the first thing that they put in front of me. And Kyosho was a big brand. I mean, still is, but back then, 1/8 scale Kyosho is what they recommended. And they offered, and when I say they, it was a group of 2 guys that were in the RC hobby that worked with my dad, and they offered to build a car. We ended up getting a Kyosho Inferno 1/8 scale. I wanted the Burns, but my dad looked at the price tag of the Turbo Burn, and he's like, no, we need to do the DX. So it was a little bit of cheaper entry point. and so that was the kit that I first got, and it got assembled for me. And anyway, it was a blast. It was a nitro. I had no idea what I was doing when it came to installing motors, but they tuned it, drove it, and it really hit me. Just going through that experience of driving that car, right on the parking lot, which then of where my dad worked. But then that led to I need to take this thing to a track. I need to see how this thing performs out in its natural territory that it was designed for. It's dirt. So I found a local track that that these individuals recommended for my dad's work, and took it out there, and it was really a 1/10 scale track for buggies that was next to an on-road track next to it. It was a small, it's called, I have to say this in Spanish, but Circuito de Miralbueno in Zaragoza. I was born in Zaragoza, Spain. So it's still there. It's been long gone, just abandoned. I mean, the hobby just kind of like died off a little bit towards the mid 2000s, but took it for a spin, and took it on a weekend where there was a race happening there. They rotated electric 1/10 scale for one weekend, and then the following weekend it was always gas cars. But I took it out there, and there was an audience. I mean, there was just people there. It was a really busy track, and through that first visit, I met the owner of a local hobby shop who he specialized in 1/10 scale as electric, and we exchanged information. He kind of saw me driving the Inferno around and was asking me questions, and he said, "Hey, what would you think about trying 1/10 scale electric? Maybe you like it as well," kind of thing. Anyway, so that led into a new world of being exposed to going into his store, which was Super Ocio, and was in front of a just display case of all of these buggy kits, and from Kyosho, Losi, and I don't know, just walking in there and seeing all of that, it was just out of this world. I just wanted more of it. So,
Excuse me.
I was given access to a 1/10 scale MRC Santana 2-wheel drive that they thought would be a cool way to get into that competition level and to test it out. And I had money saved that I had been putting away for months and months and months. I mean, I was 11 years old, and I figured, you know what? Let me just sort of invested in this.
That's a familiar story. All of us saving
Yeah,
up our
I
pocket
know.
money.
Yeah, pocket money that went really fast with that kit. But I was helped with electronics. I mean, this individual helped me out getting everything installed and tuned up. And anyway, his name is Juan Carlos Urbano. I haven't really stayed in touch after the
Fancy
year.
a Spanish bloke with his name Juan Carlos.
Juan Carlos Urbano, exactly.
What are the odds?
My dad's Juan Carlos. Yeah, what are the odds?
So we ended up going to the track with that thing, and I was even more in love with the whole idea of racing cars. And now I had a 1/10 scale and a 1/10 scale track, and wheeling that car around. I think you put a 14 triple in there motor just to get going, and Tekken ESC, and
Ooh, get Lou
it
excited
was
on the
more of a
14
like he
triple.
did.
Yeah.
He did all the wiring, he did everything, and I'm like, hey, I can't turn this down. This guy is really just wanting me to just taking me under his wing kind of thing. So loved it. I actually started entering races then. This was 1990, yeah, almost 92. And anyway, got embedded with the whole culture of racing there in the early 90s. Yes. Yeah, I mean, it really was a really great car. I mean, it handled well. I mean, for me being, I mean, not ever racing before, I thought I did pretty good, and the car was reliable. I mean, it ran. I don't think I broke anything other than maybe a universal, swing shaft on the rear in one of the races. But other than that, it was just bearings, after each, race, kind of replaced those and oiled them. But this really, now at this point, I really got into the mechanics of RC when after each race, I would take that back. I was given recommendations. You need to go through, clean it, and make sure it's ready. These are the things you should do. Oil the bearings after you clean them. Make everything's spinning freely. And I just got so hooked on doing that as a routine now. So
Yeah, so really the mechanical side and engineering side is a big part of the hobby, of course. So that really grabbed you, did it?
yes, and then and all of the things that I started looking at with this car of areas of improvement. What could be done to this car maybe down the road if I decided to get put hop-ups on it, or what things could I adjust from the factory stock kit that would make it even better. I mean, those sort of things started already flowing through my head at 11, 12. But putting the two-wheel drive aside, and I'm trying to move as fast as I can so that I don't get stuck in one area too long. But the next thing that really did it for me was when I was shown a Kyosho Laser ZX. And because that was really the team of, I think it was 4 or 5 racers that were really hardcore, were really 4-wheel drive guys. So that was the next thing that was shown to me, and the next thing that I was told that I could try. So there came another $299 later where they said, hey, get the kit when you're ready. We'll help you out a little bit to get into it, right? And we'll give you a little bit of that the discount that we can, and loaded all the electronics, safe for those. And then anyway, we took that to the track after it was all configured and ready. And I even loved it. I loved that whole 4-wheel drive experience even more. And driving, the drivability, the traction on all fours, the versatility of the Laser CX was awesome. And that's what I ended up switching to for racing, and what I ended up racing for 2 years there in that same track.
It was the ZXR, right? Or just?
Well, I'm sorry, yeah. ZXR. I said ZX. They showed me their ZXs because they had ZXs, but to a trip, when I made a trip to the U.S. to visit family, I ended up buying the first ZXR MK2 when it came out. And I brought it back to Spain, and that was the second sort of platform that I got into after seeing the ZX, and that was that was even more of a better and more reliable and better handling car, for my opinion. And then I ended up, immediately after the MK2, the ZXRR line or conversion became available, which had the ultimate shocks on it. They changed the chassis configuration a little bit and dropped the weight back by 6 millimeters on the battery cells, and some minor things here and there. And that is when I ended up finishing this, racing with in 95-ish, more or less. But I still have the car. I kept that thing after racing it a couple of years, and I ended up. Cool story is the team manager or the store owner was actually the state of Aragon champion in '93, I believe, and he handed me down some of his parts from his car when he finally just gave the 4-wheel drive 1/10 scale to brake, and he ended up installing them in my car, which I thought was pretty cool. They were aluminum. I believe they're Trinity arms, but he gave them to me. I got them installed, and I finished the racing season in '95 with them. And anyway, kept the car still here with me. So I hold a lot of more sentiment over the laser platform from Kyosho that I do really anything else really from back then. And so for anybody that didn't know, I really love Kyosho.
Hey, Ruben, you know something interesting?
Yeah.
I just Googled the ZXR, and you know how it'll auto-populate like a handful of pictures at the top of the search under the images. So like the fourth image is the ZXR that I bought from you, and
No way.
and restored. And I think ultimately I sold it back to you, right?
I think so. Yeah.
It's the fourth.
Well,
it's the fourth image on there. It's so funny.
So to jump forward a little bit, this is 95, right? Everything got stored away. Everything got put up. Life happened. Teenager, my wants and needs at the time shifted to other things, right? And then fast forwarding back, to 2020. I mean, like a lot of people can relate to when they got back into the hobby, now we're in our 40s, we're at home, we can't do much other than, to figure out what things, what we could do at home. And so Dan and I connected, funny enough, with Kyosho, with lasers, getting back into, the hobby by pulling the stuff that we had in our storage and restoring cars, and started like a lot of people were looking for parts to get things restored. And Dan and I met actually through a transaction on eBay where I was selling a laser chassis that was headed his way and got damaged in transit over to him.
U.S. Postal Service.
U.S. Postal Service.
Yeah.
Figure that one.
Yeah.
And he reached out and through Messenger said, "Hey, this is what happened, man. What can we do to get this resolved? Blah blah blah." And I forgot what I did for you, Dan. Did I have another one? I don't think so, right?
Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah. I mean, yeah,
but
it wasn't that big a deal. But
that connection off of just that one instance, that transaction in eBay is sort of how, it was how Dan and I started talking. And but anyway, so fun fact there, Kyosho and eBay in 2020 pandemic brought it back for me, and got to meet that man up there. And anyway, the rest is a lot that happened after that. But
so Ruben,
anyway.
The question that the majority of people are going to want to know is, can you explain to us your obsession, because there has to be an obsession, with the Yokomo MX-4?
Yeah, so, well, to get to Yokomo after, 2020 pandemic, doing all the restorations, one thing that I really jumped at me was seeing the passion that was out there once I joined the Facebook groups and started sharing my projects. Yokomo popped because Yokomo it's a hot category, obviously from the 90s. They won everything in the 90s, 4-wheel drive wise, and I could never afford any of them when I barely could afford what I mentioned earlier that I got a hold of. So Yokomo was completely out of the question. So I got drawn into Yokomo as a brand during that process to see, hey, let me see what I missed in all these years. Let's restore these cars and get a hold of them. So that opened up an avenue of getting to learn a little bit more about the YZ10, all of the in-between series that were released from early 90s till the end. The MX4 was understanding the history from Masaki when he developed that platform towards the 97 Worlds really drew me in because of how he got to that prototype, and it being a prototype that really started off of a 95 Worlds YZ10. Looking at how he started with the concept of the prototype and how he ended up bringing some of the components of the YZ10 from the 95, like the steering, and came up with that prototype MX4, which through later research finding out that it was really a very different to what the public ended up getting through the 98 production release from Yokomo. The box kit MX4, seeing that side by side with a prototype, it was a shocker for me, and it really got me to explore the prototype itself a little bit more, and that being a car that was never made available, the prototype was never made available to the public. It was more of a, let's develop something,
One-off.
the next prototype, race machine to win the worlds with, but then being so expensive to be really reproduced and make available to the public, because it was a one-piece carbon fiber chassis with a 10-degree kick-up built into the front. Titanium was used for all the hinge pins. The Delrin pieces were used in the rear. The front aluminum bulkhead. The bulkhead in the front was aluminum. All of those things obviously made sense. Yokomo couldn't really produce that and make it available to the masses and make thousands of them. So it was a car that was really never offered after that. It was just, that platform was put behind, and now the stock MX4 was the way ahead for Yokomo and what was pushed to for racers and for the public to use at that point. So anyway, that's where I got into that prototype platform, and I wanted to explore a little bit more about it, and that led into something that was not planned originally. It was not a let's bring the car back kind of discussion at first. It was just being drawn into and studying the car. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. But that hopefully answers the question as to why MX4 and why I picked the prototype.
Super cool story.
Yeah.
And Daniel, give us a bit of a background into first of all your passion with RC, and also how you came upon the Dragon Punch brand. I need to know this.
Well, it's kind of simple. So I grew up in Detroit. I was a young kid, huge family, lots of brothers and sisters. Parents were divorced. Mom worked a ton. So I was one of the kids that spent all day, every day, running the neighborhood on my BMX bike, doing anything that I can to get in trouble. And my best friend was the first kid that I knew that had an RC car, and he got an 80s an Altima, Kyosho Altima, and then he got a JRX Pro, and he's like, "Hey, we gotta get you into an RC." And he and I were talking not too long ago about how I ended up with my car, because he had a Losi, his other buddy had a Losi, and somehow or another I ended up with an RC10. So my first, in fact,
I love it.
this is my original RC10 from when I was a kid. The shell is not original because I never painted my original shell. So I ran around with a clear shell, and so I had a 90 championship edition. It was one of the few A stamps that they made with a 6 gear. And
Nice.
if you want to see some handiwork of a 10-year-old, Swiss. Anyone like
Well, that
Swiss
was,
cheese?
Yeah.
There was a
Yeah.
magazine article that came out. I'm pretty sure it was in one of the American magazines, and they actually gave you a template that you had to
Yep.
sit on the chassis so you could drill it. And that was all the rage.
Yep.
Around that time,
The-
you had
the-
to drill everything for lightweight.
Right. The only problem is I had really bad ADHD as a kid, and so I was like, oh, if you know a dozen holes are good, then certainly 20 or better is better, right? So you know, it's one of those things. So I ran the BNR Bullet, and then I went to a pro, and then I had a modified. My pride and joy as a child was the A&L Lethal Weapon belt drive.
Yeah, I was going to say it's got a belt drive.
Well,
Nice.
there you go,
Yep.
there you go, Daph.
Um,
You'll love that one.
Yeah, now we're talking. Now we're talking.
And so I, my best friend, who lived like I don't know 3 or 4 blocks from me. His mom had a home that had a kind of like a side lot with a couple of pine trees and stuff. So we kind of made like an RC track there, I guess. Pretty small, but we would run there a lot, especially during the summer. And then another one of our buddies, whose parents were much more well off than ours, got a Kyosho Triumph, and we were in awe of it. And he had a much bigger backyard, so we spent a summer building a full track in his backyard. And so when we weren't on our BMX bikes, we were driving RCs. Going back to my first one though, actually, because Ruben was mentioning airplanes. Mine was actually a Tyco Typhoon, which was a hovercraft.
It's the hovercraft.
Yeah.
I was going to say
Um,
hovercraft, man.
Yeah, so it was really a piece of garbage, but it was fun though. It was fun, and it was it lasted long enough for me to take it apart and put it together about 3 dozen times. So I have a propensity to want to take something apart to see how it works, and put it back together and see if I can make it better. I mean, as far back as my childhood, but much like Ruben, you know, we moved from the city to the suburbs, got, you know, switched schools. My friends went to different schools. I met all new people, got really active in sports, less active in school, but more active in sports. And, you know, I ended up selling my entire RC collection when I was in college, to including this car, when I was in college, to pay for books. And fast forward, way farther forward, 2020, like similar to Ruben, I reconnected with my buddy from my childhood. And he and I are both entrepreneurs. We both own businesses and have done other things, but you know, own multiple businesses and stay way busier than we probably should. But he was like, "Hey, man, we really got to get into racing, and we have the opportunity now to have all the cars we wanted as kids." And
So dangerous.
and so, you know, I started scouring everywhere and buying all the cars that I couldn't have as a kid. And the first, it started with I bought a Laser ZX, because that was the one I always drool over in the magazine from 1990. And my next car was a 93 Yokomo Works. And the reason why that car was important to me was the same friend, that was his third RC car that he got when we were kids, and that was really something special because I think they only sold like 200 of them in the U.S. or something like that. And he got it as a holiday present from an aunt and uncle that lived in Canada, I think. And so the first thing that I did, first car I restored post-COVID was his 93 YZ10 or works car. I'm sorry. And I'm like, oh man, I love this.
We've got
And
we've got one of our mates, Rob. He's very impressed with your RC10. But Lou, you might like that comment. He's got a.
Well, yeah.
What's he saying there about
that's
the,
why you had
the
to drill the
RC10?
RC10 because the Losi came already complete. You didn't have to do anything. You just put it on the track.
Right. It's true. So I mean, if hindsight, like if I could control what I had, it probably would have been a Losi because, well, you know, I mean, it's easier to work on stuff when all your mates have the same thing, right? But yeah, I mean, so we kind of led into restoring a lot of stuff. It started as a hobby. I've got a couple of really close friends that are in the machining industry. I am a packaging engineer by trade. My day job is running a company that specializes in packaging materials and films of paper. And I've got a good friend who's owns a race shop. He's because they're too expensive. I can't find what I need. They're in the aftermarket stuff that I see out there. I don't like. There's too much fiddling with and trying to make them work for what I want to do. And so that's kind of how I got into the parts business. And I at the height of my collection, I think Ruben and I talked about this at one point. I had about 600 cars. And I've gotten rid of a lot of them.
So only got about what 580 now.
No, I'm actually down to 20. And they're all special to me. I for one reason or another, like through my journey, I mean, Ruben didn't really touch on this too much, but through my journey, I was able to make the acquaintance of Masaki Hirosaka through kind of a chance introduction and talk a bit and glean some insight and information from him, not just from the Yokomo stuff, but from all the RC10 stuff too. And I love the way his approach and take to things. How do we incorporate not necessarily just the associated part on the associated car, but what other stuff can we add to it from different makes and models to make it better? And I've done that with Losi parts on associated cars and associated parts on Losi cars and associated parts on Yokomos and all of the above. In Losi on Yokomo. So I was able to acquire quite a few of Masamu's original cars and get a real good look at how they were put together and what made them special. And there are a lot of things that make them special, which Ruben can attest to. It just really sparked the passion of going from just a replacement part to that OEM plus, right? What's something that looks stock but is just a little better, and that's kind of our philosophy here. And so we just kind of started from there. And really, I was telling Andrew yesterday when we chatted, Dragon Punch RC. I think it's an interesting story, but we started out making some RC10s and parts with Ruben, and RRP as kind of his two-wheel drive offering. And it actually started with this car. which is an RC10 team graphite. And so my chassis that I kind of center a lot of my builds around is a modified version of the graphite chassis from Team Associated, which is morphed from its time, and it's actually the RC10 SX. It's the Japanese release, and we kind of dubbed it the RSX, which is short for RC10 SX. But anyway, and we just started making parts, and then Fan RC came on the scene, and they were offering a lot of things that got a lot more vintage cars on the track, which was great. And it also opened the door for a lot of improvement, which was great for us. And when Team Associated made it to the party and started giving us what we wanted for many years prior to that, it was just culmination of what we hoped for. And so we started, okay, where is there a market need, right? So we started offering some titanium turnbuckles because Lunsford went out of business, and so there was an opportunity there, and ball studs and hinge pins, and making our own towers and lipo mounts, and you name it, we make a lot of it. And then wherever there was a need, usually the products that we start off with a customer request, because a majority, well, at least half of what we produce is produced for other brands. So we have our house brand, which is Dragon Punch, but we also produce for a lot of OEM or a lot of other manufacturers that they market and sell as their own stuff. So, and then we have partners in various countries that make stuff. What we can't make, they'll make for us, and what we can't, or they'll work as a distributor for us in the country that they're in. I mean, we have that partnership with Berserk, which you guys are familiar with. They sell a lot of our parts there, and we're working on selling some of their parts here. And great people there, good reputation of making quality parts, and it's been a good synergy with us. But kind of our philosophy, and we have two core philosophies here, is we want to make everything that we can here in the United States and in-house. And the other is that we give a significant portion of our proceeds to charity. And so we specifically support a charity called the Movember Foundation, which is for the research and betterment of men's health. We lost my dad to prostate cancer in 2018, and kind of been our charity of choice since then. And in 2001 or 2002, we decided to stop giving cash or fundraising, and we started donating cars to raffle. And I think the last 3 years we've raffled off a Masabi car, either his car or signed by him, which he's been gracious enough to do and help with, which has been awesome.
That sounds
one of the things
amazing. Yeah, that's really something that's maybe unique in the industry, like donating a large portion, yeah, and donating such cool prizes, and such large portion of your, was it proceeds and business,
right?
Yeah, income. Yeah, that's really something to highlight.
Too,
yeah. Andrew, I think I mentioned this yesterday, but really the reason we went from it being a hobby and just kind of doing things to making a legitimate business was, so I have a 16-year-old daughter, and the idea behind starting a business was, let's teach this kid about business and website development and inventory management and managing your funds and marketing and manufacturing and all of that stuff, and using it as a tool for her to learn what the real world can be like. And it's been somewhat successful. and really we're a family-run business. My wife is super supportive with her time and energy as far as being a motivator and keeping us on task and stepping up and helping in areas where we really need it. And I mean, Ruben can attest. I'm kind of a high energy, high emotion individual, and I really kind of wear my emotions on my sleeve, which is part of this tattoo. Is it's floral and greenery because I kind of wear my emotions on my sleeve, and it's kind of a reminder of myself to that. It's like
That's pretty cool.
don't,
Did you want to
don't
show
take
that?
yourself too serious.
Yeah. Did you want to
No,
show that
it's not.
for us?
It-
Or is
Nah,
it,
I can't.
You and Andy can compare tattoos.
Yeah.
Because Andy's big.
oops.
But
Okay.
isn't it amazing how this is something that's come out for us as well down here, pretty much since this vintage movement has sort of hit the scene, where the little bits of plastic and graphite and carbon and the little shocks and springs have so much of a deeper meaning to people
Sure.
than just racing remote control cars.
Yeah.
And I think a couple of the things that you touched on, and it was both of you that touched on, not only yourself but Ruben, how it all sort of came to light as we all went through that crap COVID time,
Yeah.
where we actually, I think the majority of us try to find something in our memory where there were better times when we had fun, when it was all about fun and the
Simple.
recollection of being at the track with your mates.
Yeah.
Myself and these two characters that are on the screen from down here, we probably go back over 30 years in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And it's the same sort of thing. Something else that you touched on that I thought was pretty cool was when you're talking about finding parts and trying to improve them to make them better. Now for us, this is the best thing that we ever got down here. So we'd go scouring through the local newsagents trying to find Super Machine magazines.
Wow.
And I mean, this is one that was gifted to me by a good friend of mine, Jason. He runs True Vintage RC. But some of the stuff in here, you literally had what Masaki used to do,
Mhm.
but in printed form. So you'd see what these Japanese guys used to do in the modifications, and it used to blow us away. So we'd always try to do something to emulate that sort of stuff. So it's amazing how we all strive for doing the same sort of thing, but we came upon it from different angles.
Right.
Yourself or Ruben trying to, he's got his Lasers ZXR from back in the day. For us, at the end of every season, we'd get the cars and we'd clean them up and sell them off to a kid that was coming up and needed to be a little bit faster. So, for the next season, we'd have a fresh car. So the old car used to get sold. And, just before COVID, and I was fortunate that it happened to me, well before COVID, to be honest with you. I had this inkling. I thought I got a little bit nostalgic. I thought, maybe I should try to find some of these old models and try to make recreations of the cars that I used to race back in the day.
Right.
So I managed to get my hands on stuff before it went ballistic. Because Yokomo, you talk Yokomo down here. Yokomo, you could not buy down here, and when you did, it was just rug money. So that was always a big prohibition for us. But obviously you guys, the 650mm you got there, so it's a lot easier to find stuff.
Right.
Than the puny little 27 that you got down here.
It's interesting you mentioned that is so my first new in-box kit that I bought was this buggy. So this is a 93 Works. And it's
Whoa.
I painted it with a Red Dragons scheme instead of green. I actually have had a couple of cars that have had a similar paint job. I had a 93 WCS. So that's one of the things that Ruben and I were doing, I guess, before he fell in love with the MX4 was we both had this desire to recreate the 93 WCF because they were inobtainable, right?
Yeah, that was a story there. I remember that one.
It was a long road. So when I finished mine, I had a scheme like that painted. by Attack RC he's in Spain, right?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I fell in love with the paintwork that he was doing. So I had him paint a second one for this car. And yeah, so I mean, that's kind of like the big thing to me was like, I have friends that like were hoarding volume of similar cars. And I was like, no, I was buying kits that were unbuilt and building them. Like I built a Triumph. I bought a new box kit from a friend of ours that lives in Washington. I built a Triumph. I built that car. I built this team car, a couple of new boxes, a 94 and a 95 YZ10. It was, to me, it was like therapeutic while we were going through that lockdown, you know, and otherwise it probably would have gone mad. And because I mean, so it was, you know, it really helps with the sanity of it all. And it's, you know, I really believe in being true to the vintage aspect of it, where we can at all. And one of the things that Andrew and I were talking about yesterday was the different philosophy for vintage racing in Australia versus the US, even versus the Europe and the UK, which, you know, Ruben could probably talk to more than I could as far as the rules in the UK goes. But I know that in Australia, like, you guys are running on real dirt, you're running small bore shocks and trying to be as vintage as you can be. And in the US, it's like, we haven't really determined what the rules are. They're kind of evolving. There's some talk about there being some standardizing of what the rules are. But I mean,
I think we should go there. I think that's a good topic for us to touch on while we're online, because this is something that we discuss and we're fairly passionate about it.
Yep.
And really, it's because the vision that we had, that myself and Aaron had, and obviously Tony's online at the moment. The Goodwood Festival of Speed is a race event that happens in the UK, happens once a year. They bring out old race cars, and you'll have the old race car with its original livery. You'll have generally the driver that drove that car back in the day, and they'll do a display run. So for us, it's like a little bit of a vision into the past. So what we try to do is, if we try to recreate what the cars look like when they were on the track at that time, so within reason. And when you see a Tamiya Hornet with 2.2-inch rims and big ball shocks and a modern style paint job with all the modern style stickers, yeah, it might look cool to a 11-year-old kid, but it looks nothing like what it was on the track back in that day, right? So, so we don't sort of force the rules on people and say, oh, you've got to run it this way. But what we can tell you is that when you see the cars driven and presented in something that resembles what they did back in the day, like that Yokomo that you just put up on the screen, that is like mint. I think that's just perfect with the little shocks and everything. I'm sure there's a place for the Neo vintage, because I know Ruben does two versions of his car.
Mm-hmm.
He does one that's almost an identical copy to the original car, and then he does like a Neo vintage one, which I think is super cool too.
Yeah.
But
That
the
one has
identical
small
copy-
bores.
Yeah. I mean, that looks like it could have come off a track off Utabi Arena 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. And the other thing that made a big difference for us, which is different to what they do both in the UK, I'd say Europe, and obviously in the United States, we don't give trophies for first, second, and third. We give trophies for car looks the coolest or most period correct. So
right.
essentially what we're doing is we're putting on a display of racing with period correct cars, racing against period correct cars.
Yeah.
So we don't see. I mean, I'll just go back to the Clash of Champions. I mean, that was for us. We watched it all on television. It was amazing. You know, the way that you guys organise stuff is just next level. But Jay Horsey driving a 6-gear car against Disco Dean with a double X.
Short arm.
It's you can't.
Yeah.
It's not Well, we say it's not cricket down here, but it doesn't really translate to you guys. But yeah, it's not realistic of what we sort of had back then.
So Ruben and I both had the opportunity to be sponsors of the event and be at the event and witness the evolution leading up to it, and then the culmination, right? the excitement that it was all that it was, and I was going through a hard time leading up to it, the stress and the pressure of everything, trying to get millions of products ready to go, people wanting things to do, figuring out, okay, how does my business plan evolve as this thing goes? And I'm like, do I want to keep doing this? And going to the event, it was awesome. And having all of the vintage legends there, I was like, it was Joel Johnson and Jay Halsey and Matt Francis. I mean, I had like pinch myself moments with all three of the guys. And then I had a really opportunity to have really cool conversations with Al Horn and Matt Ledger while we were there, which was super cool. And like, it was awesome. But, you know, you're right. And one of the things I will mention regarding, I think maybe a little bit of why the philosophy is evolving the way that it is, at least in the US, is so the tracks are different. And the tracks are different here. There's so much indoor racing in the US, and managing dirt inside, it's harder. And in the US, A scale is so big, and that's where all the competition is at. Oh, I shouldn't say all, but that's where it's really competitive, and it's so they're like guys are trying to modify A scale tracks to run 10 scale, especially as it becomes more popular, because it used to be the most popular, and it's A scale is still way more popular. But as our generation is getting more and more interested back into the nostalgia of it all, the reason why we're running big bores, number one, is because parts were available, but the other part of it is like, you're running these vintage cars on these modern tracks that have these huge jumps. You better have the suspension to take up that 30-foot gapper, because you don't land it right, and your expensive vintage car is going to be in multiple pieces, you know. But the other part of it too is, you know, wheels and tires more available in 2.2 and stuff like that. But we're like, my generation is our generation, we're dragging the youth in, and they like the simplicity and the look and the cool vintage aspect of the older cars, but there's some of the stuff that doesn't make sense to them. And I think part of that is the suspension and wheels and some available hop-ups that are around. And I think that it's trying to connect the old generation and the new generation. And that's kind of that resto mod or neo vintage class that, you know, you were talking about. And I strongly believe that there's room for both, but I also think that they should be separate. Because, you know, you get into a situation where if they're all shoved into the same class, and you got, like I was talking to Bob Stormer earlier this week from Stormer Hobbies, and he showed up at the Vintage Class of Champions with an original Sassy chassis, I think, brand new build with like NICADs and new in the box Novak, and he was broken all the time. And it was fun for him because he was there, but it was discouraging because he's never going to be competitive against the cars that are running big bores and you know, 10.5 motor or 13.5 motor and all that stuff. It's just, so you don't want to discourage the fun aspect and people coming out to do it, and which is something that I really admire regarding the vintage bashes. You got the number one thing is have fun and enjoy yourself, and then, if you win, whatever. But have a cool looking car and it's very correct, and then whatever else happens.
So what we saw down here is, and this is something that we discussed. We did a 2000 cutoff for the vintage because we think anything that's newer than 2000, well, it's almost there was like it's like the muscle car era, right? So the real cars, from maybe late 60s to the very early to mid 70s.
Yep.
That's the era when you had the muscle cars. After that, you had some cool cars, but they weren't muscle cars as such. So with the 2000 year cutoff, one of the things we observed was if you say we're going to do a race meeting for vintage cars and we're going to give trophies out for first, second, and third, everybody will gravitate towards a Losi XX or Triple X, and everyone will get a B2 or a B3. So all the cool old cars, the 5-link Losi, the 6-gear RC10, the original Ultima with a little cage chassis, the Optima with a chain drive, they just sit on the table. They don't get driven because you're not going to be competitive with an Optima against the XX4.
Yeah.
So in order to try to get the cars on the track so we could get to see them again, we came up with this idea about doing period correct style classes.
Yep.
And not overpowering them because some of the drivetrain parts you just can't get anymore. And it's good that you guys can make some stuff. Look, I know you guys do drive shafts and ball cups and all that stuff, which is magnificent because it keeps our cars running. But we see some of these guys overseas are running 10.5s and stuff in cars that shouldn't be going that fast. And really, it doesn't matter how fast the car is, provided it's sort of, they're all about the same speed and they look cool going on the track and you can make a jump without crashing. That's our philosophy behind it.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting because, like you guys are used to the vintage loose dirt and that, and in this Team Associated race that's going on in October, I was telling Andrew that they're approaching 500 entries, which I think is where the cutoff is. It's going to be one of the first big vintage outdoor races that, well, I guess it's not technically outdoors, but it's loose dirt. And I think they're trying to mirror the 85 World Championship track and conditions.
Yeah.
It's going to be really awesome to see that. I think you're going to have a lot of really cool vintage world champions there. And then even some new non-RC guys that are sleds that are coming out to do that. Like, Kurt Busch was just announced as being one of a NASCAR driver was just announced to coming in. So it's kind of going to be, it might be like a spectacle. I mean, it is in Las Vegas, but it's going to be fun. And I think that Australia has been part of the driver as far as that goes, because like, what vintage is, but when you see someone else doing it, you're like, yeah, why don't I do that? That looks like fun. And, how do you get a bunch of 40 somethings to travel across the country?
40 somethings. That's correct.
I'll never be 50. So I'm always going to be 40 something.
Yeah, I said that too about 10 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, how do you
I'll never be 50, but today's actually my birthday, so I'm not 50 yet though. So
Oh, happy
happy
birthday,
birthday.
Andrew.
You're not 50, are you?
no, not yet.
Yeah.
Never,
Yeah.
never.
So, I mean, you get them never ever. You get people to travel by that far to do something special, right? And and that's what it's about, is building the memories. And I really believe that the Clash of Champions race was going to be fun, and I thought that it was going to be. I thought it was going to be cool. I had no idea what the camaraderie of the entire event was going to be like. I mean, even tons and tons of people that didn't know each other, had never talked before, leaving the race, and it's like all of a sudden you've got 200 new Facebook friends.
What do you call it, Aaron? Gathering of the tribe or something, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's what it is.
that's accurate.
Yeah.
RC
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
Right.
It's,
Right.
it's
And it's
good little segue there, Dan, and also Ruben. I don't know if you want to chat a bit about it. We've got
The Clash.
the
Oh,
Clash of
that's
Champions. You mentioned the other day about Brian as well. Did you want to talk about that a bit?
yeah. I mean, so Clash, like Dan was mentioning earlier, was something that we knew was going to be big, and we knew that it was going to be a jump into the actual racing scene for vintage that and something that we hadn't really been able to do, being so focused on building our brands, getting our websites up, getting our product lines out there, and be known in the industry. To never really been on a racetrack, and never been in an event like this. So I was really looking forward to it. And like Dan was describing, it was a shocker being there and seeing how much of a turnaround there was, how well organized the whole event was. Drew Boyd, Dirk Anderson did an incredible job just getting the crowd riled up and ready before the event. So we were just super excited. And Dunbar, Brian Dunbar, rest in peace, was a connection
Mm.
that Drew Boyd really made for Rubrics for me, and it was Brian was a big part of the organizing of the event. He wanted to be racing at that event. He didn't quite really have a four-wheel drive car in mind. We all know that two-wheel drive was his baby, and going back to '97 with his low C double X4,
Mm.
and so Drew Boyd gave essentially the opportunity to me to be able to build a car for Brian. Started back in early, getting the parts together was started in January. I knew the event was coming, and I put together a '97 Worlds MX4 prototype, the Evo, the evolution of that car, which was the discussion we had. We were talking about earlier, resto mod, big boards, solid one piece, chassis, no battery cell cutouts, just the evolution of that car that Rubrics has been working on for 18 months plus on in getting ready, and a platform that was ready for tracks like the one at Clash in Indiana, the clay, big jumps, so I figured let me get the best I can come up with for Brian to race at that event, and make sure that the reliability was there, the materials that were used for that car were top notch, and that car was built, and I shipped it straight to Brian. Coordination through Drew, and he was excited about it. He was super thrilled to embark, and over with Rubrics in the program, in the project. And so that was the last car that Brian ended up working on, and what was on his bench in getting ready for Clash of Champions. Fortunately, things happened the way that they did. Life took an incredible human being from this planet, but that was how that connection between me and Brian Dunbar was, which was never it was supposed to be a meet in person, talk to him. It was getting close to that point, and boom, this happened. But the car obviously was there, was shown, and we got to Drew actually was going to race, or he was going to race a mid-drive conversion, a YMP platform Yokomo MX4 at that race, and he decided to obviously Dunbar's car was not going to be raced, but that YMP Rubrics car was was given to Chris Van Air to race for Drew at the 4-wheel drive class, and anyway, it was pretty exciting to see him do that. He did it incredible with the car. You know, Scott Spear was there also with an RS4E, and anyway, it was good to be part of all of that, and being able to be to meet Brian's dad, who was there, who I talked to on the side, and be able to, you know, talk about the experience what it meant for me to be able to be as close as I got to Brian, and what that connection meant to me, and give him my condolences, and I told him, you know, we have to think about things that he would want us to be doing now, today, in this event, and things that we could do in his name and his legacy going forward. And he was all on board with the whole idea of Rubrics working on doing something special, a tribute kit for him down the road. And can't get in too much into that now, and no details, but that has been in the works and in the background. And being able to do being able to provide something that people could relate to, and that is through a car, and that he meant, you know, he was going to race at that event. And I have it back here. This is actually another replica. I did his first build, and then after the event, I really couldn't find myself in doing another build, a Dunbar build with his body, because it just I couldn't find myself doing it. But then I recently completed this replica of his car that's actually going to be going out to Alan Horn, who raced at the race in that class. And I figured that the first one that I built after so many months, he would be a good recipient for it. So it's essentially the same exact thing that I had done for Brian, even down to the tires. But the only thing that I kind of did different on this one was to introduce a little bit more of the gold into the build, because gold was Brian's style, and he liked to use it a lot in his build. He was just that artistic guy, and was very peculiar with the hardware he used. So that's titanium gold screws that were added in there. And it sort of was also this was a proof of concept for me, going through it and trying to determine, what is it that we can eventually make that Brian Dunbar kit to be used to kind of make those decisions. The build that I used
That's
to
what
kind of make
Jewel
those
was.
decisions. But so I have to mention here, because Team Associated was incredible in working with me throughout this whole journey, and being able to get to this point with the Evo. I mean, Team Associated 13 millimeter shocks associated with the factory team Kashima shock bodies with the black, and there the integration of that B7 wing mount for that modern resto mod coolness, look on there. They were really key in being able to make these shocks available to us. So thankful to the staff, Michael Wardle and Richard Saxon, and those guys are incredible. I have to mention this too. It's Dan and I worked through this project as well. I use Dan a lot for ideas and suggestions, and I wanted to use the black turnbuckles that see it that Dan makes, Dragon Punch black titanium turnbuckles are going to be part of anything that comes out with in terms of a Brian Dunbar kit. His titanium steering post, servo delete steering post. That's been an integration of the Evo, and all of them come with his steering post, and then the carbon fiber brace, the steering brace is pretty much standard, and that comes from Dragon Punch as well. It's kind of hard to see there, but anyway, a lot of collaboration, a lot of different minds coming together to be able to do something like this, and but it shows how much Dragon Punch and RRP work together and collaborate. So
Lots of hours into that. You've done a great job, man.
appreciate you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. So anyway, so that's the story there with Brian Dunbar, and anyway, we hope to have quite a few of these show up in Vegas. Like Dan was saying earlier, having these cars be in racing and dirt is going to be something that I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh yeah.
Being able to seeing them being raced in UK and turf and indoors or clay in the US, to now see how things are going to be in dirt. It's pretty interesting, and look forward to it. Anyway,
Are you going to have a drive? Are you going to take your ZXR?
so I actually was talking to Dan about that. I can't take my original one. I mean, it doesn't even have electronics on it. I think I should just retire it.
Oh, you
This is
can.
why-
You could.
I could, but this is, by the way, is the original 95, how it came out of the track. With the exception of me, I mean, I did add a few decals here and there just to kind of make it pop a little bit more. But I don't think I can take this, but I think I may have some fun with another ZXR that I have that's got electronics already ready to go with a 10.5 motor, and maybe do laps with it for fun. Anyway, here's a little bit of a shot of it.
Look at that.
If I don't know if it can be observed, but this, by the way, this Laser ZXR, all the carbon that you see on it was actually hand cut in front of me by the team manager in Spain. Top deck chassis, the tower. Anyway, so holds a lot of sentimental value. So anyway, I don't think I can possibly take that over there and start driving it, but I think we'll retire that.
The Laser ZXR was a very, very cool car. I raced one in 94, 93, 94, I think I had it. Laser ZXR. Again, had a hand-cut chassis from Anthony Devith.
Yep.
And,
original carbon guy.
On the one that I had, we moved the batteries back, but you couldn't move them back because they hit the post. So we actually had them in a like a butterfly. So we had the saddle packs moved outwards and back.
I had a
that car-
Wasp RC chassis for
Yes.
the ZXR that was the same configuration.
Yeah.
Yep.
And on the Laser ZXR that I had, we had the Losi Double X shocks on and a Losi Hydrodrive.
Nice.
And it was a weapon of a car. But the biggest problem with those cars, as you would well remember, was runtime duration, which is a thing of the past, thankfully.
The working on a Laser compared to working on a ZXR. Oh God, it's a nightmare working on a Laser. It takes so long to do anything. You got to take the car apart to do anything.
I do have to say though, the Laser, I mean, as many races and laps I did with that thing, thankfully I didn't have to get into the gearbox very much. It was pretty solid and reliable. I mean, maybe pulling out the differentials and rebuilding them was maybe one thing I did every like 5 to 6 races. But other than that, I mean, if you didn't roll that car over, I think the weak spot for it was really that rear plastic piece that just flapped open That, and obviously the wing mounts, if you had a bad rollover, that would usually crack and break.
Mhm.
But anyway, it was a pretty reliable car overall. But yeah, to Dan's point, it was not the easiest car to work on if you really needed to get into placing belts and other things, and in between heats with having limited time to get it ready for the next heat. If you really were not fast in getting into that car, you definitely would probably would be done.
Yeah.
It wasn't like working on a Yokomo. It was 4 screws and you just pop the diff out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I was talking with Jose Zayas the other day, who is a huge he's a Losi driver. He's a sponsored Losi driver still, and helps them a lot with their product development. And he's the owner of Z3D. He does 3D printed Hoppa parts. And we were talking about the YZ10 just the other day, and because he used to run those before the Double X4 came out, and he is like, they look great. They were so fast, but man, you got about 6 races out of a YZ10 before it broke. And he goes, so you got one test run, you've got your heats, and then you've got hopefully your mains, and before you broke. And
Well, that was a YZ10. When you had the Works 91 and the Works 93, you'd get 2 club days out of a set of drive shafts.
Yeah.
Right.
Or the out drives from diffs, because they'd end up with like a big cup where the pin went through on the out drive. It was just the metals on those cars were just trash. But gee,
Right.
they handled good.
Yeah. So maybe Lewis, you can help me decide which car I'm going to take to the Vegas race. So I'm signed up for one class, and Cliff Led and Massimi were always the guys when I was a kid, right? And so I'm struggling with what car to take. So a big part of the parts that we make are Losi based, trying to fill in the gap of
The closet
keeping
door's
those
about to
cars
open.
on the track.
Look
So I've got 2 cars that I'm taking. So the first is so Jose raced this car that we built. It's a RC10, one of the re-release team cars, and we went a little extra. We went red chassis and everything.
There you go, Dave.
And we're doing something a little different. And I don't know if this. I guess I have a question. So, are you allowed to run big bore springs on small bore shocks?
No,
Is
nobody cares.
So you could, but it's just not approved, right? Or not.
No, but it doesn't look out of place. It
Okay.
doesn't.
No.
Yeah. So I have that option, or
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
Here's the answer.
Now he's come to his senses.
I can tell you what's going to
Yeah.
happen now.
Gee, I wonder what the answer is.
so right.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we do is our Losi chassis, and we get our vintage carbon Losi chassis from Berserk, because he does an excellent job at doing vintage carbon. So I've built this car to run this car, and this chassis, or this body, is painted by Dwayne Walter from DW Designs, who did a really cool job of a vintage play on box art. But I built this one to race this, and so I can't decide if I'm going to do that, if I'm going to race this or if I'm going to race the RC10. I feel
I'll
like
make the decision for you. If you race that, you'll be super cool. If you race the RC10, you'll just be a sheep like everybody else.
well, so what I haven't said yet is you were mentioning the Losi Double X shocks, right? So these are the re-release associated shocks, but I have new Losi, well, not new, newly rebuilt Losi threaded small bores, which are going to go on this car, just as is kind of white on. I mean, they're great, and they offer a little more tunability. But
So
I'm trying to figure it out. I think you're right. I think that the RC10 would be more. There are going to be a lot of those.
Yeah. So in addition to Lou, whose decision I think we know, there's a lot of support online for the Losi. So it's like Rob and Joshua. And the
Losi,
guys
Dan,
there,
you need
so-
to do Losi.
Yeah, I think so.
Hey, Lou, share the cheat code.
Hey, yeah. Well, you can tell the story about my JRX Pro, Aaron.
The cheat code car.
Yeah.
Explain.
Oh man,
I'm all ears.
Lou has a
So-
car that he. Yeah, you go on. You go. I've been
No,
around
no,
it. You've
you
told
go.
it enough times. No, you do it. It's because it's your car.
I know. You're either a Chevy man or you're a Ford man. We had this discussion with Jason Verona when we spoke
Red
weeks ago.
Sox or Yankees?
Tigers.
One of the two.
Tigers.
So I happen to be a Losi guy.
Right.
I happen to be a Losi guy. And for me, it's a no-brainer with the car. Anyway, when we had the JRX Pro, so obviously I go back all the way to JRX 2.5 Link, racing those cars, and we got the JRX Performance conversion, which was the H-arm and the 16 double junior's choice motor and the long chassis and the long front shocks. And that car at the time, I absolutely loathed it. I hated it. It used to understeer. It was just crap. To the point that I was ready to throw it in the bin and switch over to the Traxxas because I was really attracted to the Traxxas TRX1. And I had a really good relationship with the guy that used to bring the cars into Australia, the Team Losi. And he said, Lou, there's a car coming out. It's a JRX Pro SE. You love it. You just hold on. Okay, so I held out and I got the JRX Pro SE. But as I said at the time, the JRX Pro, I just hated it. We'll move forward 30 years or whatever it is. Well, let me think, 91. So what's that, 30, 20, 30.
34 years.
Yeah.
Lou.
And now it's possibly my favourite car because it does everything so well. And I'll put it down obviously to tyre technology and 30 years of understanding how a shock absorber works and what pistons do and having access to different weights of shock oil. But they're such a cool car and so simple. 4 screws takes the whole front end apart. 4 screws takes the gearbox out.
Right.
And if you happen to have one with one of the double X retrofit boxes, just amazing car.
So
Share that one, Andy.
What's that, Lou? You got on your shared screen? Yep, just a moment.
Yep.
I will bring that up for you.
So my buddy Josh from Josh Wade RC, he is running and testing our double deck Pro SE chassis set,
Here we go.
and he's got our machined JRX front bulkhead that we make with our titanium hinge pins and front carbon pin brace, and those cars are really fun to design for because they're right. They're really simple. They're just designed right, and you can tell that they were designed with the idea of, and I think it's kind of the philosophy that Ruben's going with his brand, but you're designing the car that already has the hop up when you buy it, right? It's already there's that extra thought into, okay, how do we make this easy to work on? How do we make this easy to break down? And how do we make it durable while we're running it? And I think you're right. I think the Pro SE is the culmination of that JRX series for sure. And it's attractive looking too. So.
Well, I think but back in those times when you they definitely got the marketing correct, the fluoro colors and the spur gears were coloured, the pistons and the shocks were coloured.
The springs.
Springs, yeah, they came along after the.
Yeah,
the
but that's
Gyro.
what I mean. They went down that path of all colours.
Yeah, and if you want to see the starkest of all contrasts, just grab an RC10 team car with an alloy chassis, and then put a Losi Double X next to it. And the Losi Double X, even though it's 30 plus years old, still looks like it's a current car. That's how far in the future those things were, I think. But anyway, I'm not going to stand here and or sit here and ramble on about Losi and why I'm such a
Yes,
big
yes,
Losi
you are.
fan.
Are you
But,
standing
yeah.
on a? Are you standing on a
think-
soapbox right now?
No, I'm sitting on a comfortable couch. But I just,
There's soapbox parts
There's,
installed here. Don't worry about that.
the vintage market. I think Losi, TLR, Horizon, that missed something by not at least re-releasing a JRX 25 link. I mean, they did the mini one. Such a shame they didn't do the 1/10th one.
I hear mixed stories about it happening, not happening.
Yeah.
So, if we all keep doing our job, it might happen.
Yeah.
You know,
And if you don't, we'll just keep running these old ones. We can
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
find for them. And
I mean, you're getting pretty close to being able to
Rebuild
build
the
an
car.
entire car out of new parts.
yeah,
You know,
So can we put in a request to you now for a retrofit double X gearbox for a normal Losi car?
I can't really get into that right now.
There's your
Why?
answer,
No
Jeff.
comment. Yep, thank you. No comment.
2026 is not too far away from here, so
Yeah.
it's a natural fit, right? I mean, just look at what JC Racing's done with their retrofit case for the RC10 and the B6 diff.
Yep.
You know, now, would that be allowed at Vintage Bass in Australia if you were running a modern internal gearbox on a vintage
I mean,
car?
this takes us down to another one. Okay, so I'll give you another example, and this is Aaron can elaborate on this because we came out with a pancake ladder. Actually, Aaron came out with a pancake ladder. Associated released their four-wheel drive RC10, which is a car that really never existed in the vintage. But I can tell you that there's probably dozens of people that all wanted the MIP four-wheel drive conversion because they thought it was super cool. So given, other than the fact that the RC10 kit, the associated re-release four-wheel drive RC10 kit came out with funky-looking wheels, and we know that it's a B74 front spindle.
Yep.
If you were to put, I don't know, let's say the pink Yokono wheels on it and paint it like Jay Halsey's car, the car to me, like it's got the little shocks, it's got everything that makes it.
Yeah.
It's got everything that makes a car look like something that was back in the day. So
Yeah.
what class era would you put that car into? That'd be a difficult one. We've sort of discussed this in the past.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be out of place in a 94 era class. Sure, it's not the same as what Jay Halser ran at 85 Worlds.
No.
Right.
But there's still relevance. So
Right.
if let's say you had a Maru Galaxy, let's say it's a car from the mid to early 80s, and you couldn't find a diff for it, and you decided that you were going to use a B6 diff to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as long as you kept the rest of the car looking normal, it really wouldn't matter because, by using that gear in the diff, you're allowing that car to be on the track again. So
Yeah.
I guess if you had a JRX Pro and you didn't have a gearbox and someone made a gearbox that used B6 or TLR internals to make it, we wouldn't, I don't think that's against the spirit because really all we're doing is trying to get a car back on the track. It's not about how fast you can be with it, you know?
I mean, that was kind of what it was about back then too. It's right. I mean, I have a customer of mine who he commissioned us to do a really unique project and he raced for Associated in the late 80s and early 90s, and he halved two cars. It was an RC10 nose and Spirit,
PC3.
and then he took the rear end of a GRX Pro and put the two cars together. And he actually physically cut the chassis in half and put them together. And one of the projects we did for him was he really one of our best sellers is we sell a retrofit kit that takes a carbon top deck, very stealth, 89, 91 stealth like, and have created front bulkheads and stuff to have it retrofit on the original RC10 graphite chassis. And he wanted to do that, but he wanted to do that with his vintage chassis idea, low C rear end, associated front end. So we made a low C rear end, associated front end on a graphite chassis, one piece, not two pieces, and then a top deck. And it came out super cool. And, the long and the short of it is, it's like back then, that's the ingenuity was part of the fun. It was, how do I look at this different, or how do I do something different? And how do I gain an advantage? And if you weren't a sponsored racer, I mean, the world was your sandbox. I mean, you could do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of where we're at now. It's the vintage Losi stuff is really, really hard to get your hands on. And you get your hands on original stuff, it's expensive. And so that's kind of where we're at, because, Losi has released a couple of new cars and they're continuing to make some parts. And I feel like using modern Losi parts on a retro Losi build is probably more appropriate than putting a B7 gearbox or diff or slipper in there. But we'll see. I mean, Losi parts are definitely on our radar, just like Associated. Ruben mentioned how wonderful Associated has been. They have been really great to Dragon Punch also. And I cannot thank Michael Wardle enough for the time and energy he's put into things for us and into the market, and allowing us to be part of the ride. And I really wish Horizon would get into this too. And I mean, I don't know that everyone shares my sentiment, but I think that if vintage Losi cars came out and when they were re-released, that would only help sales of Team Associated cars.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And it's people are like, well, you don't see many Losis on the track. Well, you don't, because parts are hard to find. And if they were more readily available, you'd see a lot more Losis on the track.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of our thought process. So, I think that as we come into the new year and next year, I know I hope it's okay that I speak for you, Ruben, but Ruben and I both share a similar vision, and that is, let's push the envelope on what vintage racing can be. Let's give our customers what they're asking for, because he and I both feed really heavily on customer suggestions and feedback. And, the only way that we'll know that there's a need, because, there are so many hours in the day, is feedback from racers. And I think Ruben and I have both gone from being less concerned with the shelf queen market, which I think is where we both kind of started, right? Let's make something pretty on the shelf too. No, racing is way more fun. And, oh, by the way, now all of a sudden the parts are consumable because people are racing and breaking them, which is, that's how we make a better part too, is right. You have a failure and opportunity for improvement. So.
Or better yet, being able to bring both of those two worlds together and provide the customer with both, something that's beautiful enough to have on the shelf, but yet you can take it to the track, not have a worry of breaking anything. And if you do, there's parts available. But building platforms that are going to be allowing the customer to finish the races without challenges by strengthening those areas that we know through that feedback system are weak, and making manufacturing and developing products that make them more reliable while keeping them looking good. And that customer can then, when the race day is over with, They can wipe it down, put it back on the shelf. It looks just like a shelf queen. And then when you're ready for the next race, take it down and use it both ways to get the most out of your investment. Dan and I coming from the rebuilds and the restorations, where we, like we talked about, you wouldn't dare to put that thing that you just spent all that money on and cleaning and getting so crisp looking on the track with a worry that you would break something.
Yeah.
Now we eliminate that. Now let's just not worry about that so much. It's not 2020, 2021 anymore. We've kind of developed a mindset towards vintage is back. Vintage is strong. People are wanting to race. Let's get those products out there and listen to the customers.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's kind of where things have been driven.
Yeah.
Get those cars back on the track.
Yeah, and there's a thing that sort of people haven't kept mindset about, but I remember it back in the day, and it was really important. It was you really personalised your cars. It wasn't about having the same car. So, like, you might be an associated racer, but they looked very different.
Yeah.
And we've sort of that's a part that I can see coming next. And it's like that thing of you'd have three associated lined up, and you'd look at them and you'd know they were the same car mentally, but
Yeah.
they were very different visually.
Oh,
And
sure.
that was something that was really cool. That was one of the things that I fell in love with is what I used to do. One, I was a bit more like you guys. I did a lot of, I wouldn't say that.
Oh,
Engineering because I had lathes and mills.
Oh, he's back.
Titan. Ooh,
So we lost
that
you
was a
there
bit
for a
wild,
minute,
so-
Daff. Oh,
Yeah,
20
I
seconds.
gathered as much. I went in and out. I went in and out. So
Yep.
one of the things that we did was personalisation a lot. So we were using Delrin, we were using Tufnol, we were using titanium back in the 80s and 90s, carbon fibre,
Oh, wow.
laminates.
Circuit
What was
board.
that?
Circuit board.
Yeah, well, that's what you started off with because it was
Yeah.
easier to get than everything else. But that was the thing, and I'm seeing that starting to come back at the Bash, where it's people are wanting to start to personalise their cars. So it's like that thing of performance and looks. You got to go. You got to do both sides. So if it's I got to make it look good and I got to make it go
Yeah.
fast. And
I mean, yeah. I mean, look at like Rory Culls RC10 versus Masami versus Cliff Flat. Like they're all the
Yep.
same RC10, but they don't look the same at all.
Yep.
I'm down on that for sure. I mean, I am.
So that's why I've got anodized and coloured RC10 chassis.
Yeah.
And they're all different, because I wanted my cars to look different. I didn't want to be the same as everyone else with a gold tubbed RC10 or now a black chassis RC10. You got to know it's me, and it's the same with my Lossy. And now when you talk to the guys, what do? They change wire colours on the modern cars, and you're sort of going, there's a. To me, that's cool because I understand pure performance, but I also understand the aesthetics behind it.
Right.
And the feeling. So they're the spaces that I see. And like, I don't know, I didn't see up at Chargers, Lou and Cookie. Remember, Marshy had one of Ruben's cars, and aesthetically, it was just I was in love with the damn thing. It's like, ugh,
It looked good on the
never
track.
had one. Never wanted to buy one in a day. Change that now, like 30 years down the past, and you're going, how did I miss this bandwagon?
Well, legitimately, like Ruben said, the MX4 Proto and its evolution, it's a very different car than the box.
Yeah, and that's me. I live in the space of prototype.
Yeah.
I don't like out of the box stuff, and that was the thing that, like Lou said, we'd look at the pictures, and that the pictures of the cars in the magazine weren't necessarily the pictures of the cars that were actually raced, because
Right.
we'd get the magazine. You'd look at the magazine where you've got the radio controlled car action photograph of here's, Masami's car. He won at this Reedy race or something. But then you look at the photos on the track and you go, that bulkhead's a different colour, or that link's in a different place. And hold on, there's the marketing arm, and then there's the development arm.
Yeah.
And that's where we'd be sitting back and going, I'd get the photographs, I'd look at it, and I'd replicate what I'd see on the photographs racing rather than what I'd see in the ads.
Yeah.
And this is the same that I think people are starting to go back to now is I want to make the cars look like they did back in the day.
Right.
And this is where we go from the Bash, and this is the Pancake Rabbit sort of circular argument. You go back and you go, everyone's arguing about the whole oh, the car wasn't made in the day. And you go, yeah, but if someone 30 years ago couldn't buy the MIP RC10, for example, and that's what they always wanted, so they buy the closest thing they can now, and then they come to the track to want to come and experience what they had back in the day, and you turn around and go, it wasn't made, off you go, lad, you can't run the car at the track. Is that really what we want to be doing with our tribe and our people? It's sort of
Right.
like the, you know, because then they're going, why? And you're going, why are they trying to ban that car? Oh, because they're scared it might be better than theirs and they'll win. Oh, hang on, we've gone down into a whole different
You know
world.
what?
Yeah.
What do we win?
Yeah, but that's what I mean. This is the mindset where they're going, and you're going. Pure competition is lovely, and don't get me wrong, I love it and I do it. But there's a time and a place for it.
Right.
But then there's also a time and a place for doing the other stuff, which is, what is it? Your famous words, Lou? An exhibition, not a
An exhibition,
competition.
not a competition.
You know, so you want
I like that.
you want the guys who in the day saw the magazine with the MX-5 prototypes or an MIP car or Ron Rossetti's car, and they saw the photographs, but they never saw it on a track. Or the Hornet. They never saw it on track. Why wouldn't you want to have that car going around the track so that people can look at it and then bring back all those wonderful memories and the happinesses and all that sort of stuff, rather than going, no. So this is that space that we've got to navigate as part of this. There's the competition side of vintage racing, but then there's the, for want of a better word, the non-competition side, the participation side. And this is where we need, like you said, there's a space for neo vintage, there's a space for pure race cars, there's a space for 10.5 sand scorchers going around a track, you know, on AstroTurf. But then there's also a space for Hornets with 540s in them going around the track as well. And this is the joy of having everything in the universe all in the one place, and you can maneuver between the two whenever you want.
Yeah. Well, so you were talking about the RC10 4-wheel drive and the MIP 410 Legend kit.
Yep.
And then even the Factory Works 10.4
Correct. Yep.
kit that they did. The thing that I like about that car so much is, number one, there was not a car I wanted more as a kid than an MIP 4-wheel drive conversion RC10.
There you go.
You and
No
me
way-
both. You and me
No
both.
way could I have afforded it.
Yep.
But that was one of the bucket list cars that I had to have. I was able to acquire one in a trade that had all of the things. It had a hydro drive on it. It had MIP shocks. It was the green anodine or green powder coated associated chassis. It was beautiful, but it was insanely expensive. You could never run that car, even if you're like, oh, what's money? It's like, I don't know. So I ended up selling it or trading it, I don't remember, to a collector for something that I coveted more than that. But when the RC10 4-wheel drive came out, and there had been rumors about the MIP car coming out, and I don't know that the two companies were collaborating or were one knew about the other. I think that it's possible and likely they were doing it separately because there was a market one. And I think Associated they're testing the market with some of their releases, but they're also listening to, we really want these things, right? And the 4-wheel drive car, it has the B7 front parts, but it drives, it's belt driven, it's a 3-gear stealth, it's all of the stuff that's vintage. And in the US, we throw that car in the same class as the MIP 4-wheel drive conversion because it's maybe more durable because of, some of the parts, but it's vintage in all of the right ways. And
Exactly.
And I think I was a bit of a skeptic when it came out. And in fact, when we were going through and ordering them, I was like, I'm not sure how that's really going to do. And with the exception of the Masami car, I don't think I sold out faster than with any other car than that 4-wheel drive car. I mean, I don't know. I think I bought 16 of them or something like that, and they were gone in like less than 24 hours. And it's been a great car for us because we're doing a carbon conversion of it. But It's a fun car. I mean, it's, and I'd love to see it on a vintage track because it's one of those things where it's a new car, but it has vintage
DNA.
It scratches all the
It's-
vintage spots, you know.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. It's like you turn around and you go, putting a retro gearbox on the back with the modern internals, and you go, you sit there and you go, so what's the intent of doing it? And this is where we get back to the intent thing. If you want to put a 3-gear gearbox on the back of an earlier Lossy, like the retrofit for the Double X gearbox, that's not changing the fundamental philosophy if you're using modern Lossy parts. It's then you start to get into people going, oh, you can't do it. Why? Oh, it's going to give you a performance advantage. And you're sort of going, hang on a minute. That's like saying, oh, you can't do this. And you turn around and go, a lot of it's in the driving. Some things can make a huge performance change, like when you start to go around, like if you do it for the different environments, big bores on a buggy for big jumps, what they're there for. And that's where you get the performance advantage. But if you're putting a 3-gear gearbox on the back of a Lossy, was it around in the day? Yes. You're using parts that are very similar. Do they give you any bigger performance advantage? If you're getting the new Lossy parts, they've probably got better metal, so they won't flog out like the Yokomo ones.
I mean, MIP sold
you're sort of sitting there going,
MIP sold a 3-gear.
MIP sold a yellow box. I think it was the yellow gearbox that you put on the back of the Lossy. So you turn around and you do that, and then you go, well, okay, well then I've got my MIP SP1 gearbox, but I can put the new ball diff from the SRBs from the Tamiya in it. Then you're starting to get into that thing, and you're going, well, be pragmatic about it. Like, are you changing it? Are you changing the performance completely? If you then turn around and put a 4-gear, laid down gearbox from a B into an old RC10, you go, wrong answer. But if you're starting to go through it and going, I'm putting a 3-gear gearbox like the 3-gear gearbox that was available in the day, but using commonly available parts, it's sort of, and it doesn't look really weird, and it doesn't give you this. You're not chasing the 2-second a lap performance advantage. You've got to start to put it in your head. What's the harm in having that stuff run?
Right there.
And this is our philosophy in the bash is, if it looks right and you're keeping it on the track, I'm going to be fairly sympathetic towards what you're going to do.
Right.
If you're putting stuff on the car to beat people, I'm going to be buying you a can of. You might want to go and have a look at yourself and have a chat to the pancake rabbit.
Right. Add to that fence. A 215 or whatever the stealth is, I don't remember offhand. To a 2.6. So you can gear it different. You can keep. You have some advantages, but speaking as a novice driver, I like to drive. I'm not a professional. More speed does not equal being faster. And just because your car can go faster doesn't mean you're more kilometers per hour doesn't mean you're going to get around the track faster. And it's more of an issue again when you're on these tracks that have these huge jumps and you need the momentum to get over them and that kind of thing. So you're really kind of tailoring the technology to the tracks that you have. But I feel like as vintage becomes more popular here anyway, the tracks are going to evolve into more 10-scale tracks that don't necessarily have that stuff. So it's a fun time to be in for sure.
And don't forget, the other thing that everyone misses is we've gone to brushless.
Yeah.
You're now talking about a completely different torque curve and everything else. Around 7-turn, 14-turn motors with where the torques and the RPMs and everything were. And you think about the ratios. Back in stock days, you were running 8s and 9s. Now for stock, with you're running a 21.5, you're running 6. And that's you're limiting yourself to 6. Whereas you can go down to 5. So all of a sudden, you're in these crazy ratios where you're changing torques and curves and everything else through all the mechanics of the gearbox. And yet the new parts are designed to cope with that more in the ratios rather than the old thing. So you're sort of sitting there and going, I'll run the old car with all the modern reproductions of the old designs and then put in a motor. So it's like saying I've got an old motor and I drop in a brand new LS3. All of a sudden the torque curve, the power delivery, everything else is thing, and you go, why are the diffs and the gearboxes falling out the back of the car?
Right. These diffs are junk.
Yeah, that's right. The diff's junk, and you're going, it's because you're doing something crazy to it. So this is where, from our side, from the vintage scene, where it's about having the cars on the track, if you're starting to think about, oh, you're going to go faster, I can't let that guy run because he's going to go faster and he's going to beat me. For our event, you need to have a good hard look at yourself. For the racing events, that's where you've got to start to be careful, because there's tricks that we know we can all do hidden from the inside of our black books, where I could change things to make a big advantage and get different advantages out of what's going on. And you'd then be saying, and then other people wouldn't have access to that. And that's when you're starting to get that delta where all of a sudden, like Lou said, you've got this class, all of a sudden you're running triple X's and B3s. Nothing else then can run because you're into that space. So then you become basically a one-make class for vintage, which then gets very boring.
You might as well race modern, because all modern.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. You then go to modern. So you've got to start thinking about what you're trying to achieve from the rule sets and the classes to then run your events. And that's why at our meeting that we went up to in Chargers up in Brisbane just recently, the three of us went to, what were the best classes we were racing? 4-wheel drive and 2-wheel drive cars with 540s in them.
Oh yeah.
The real
and it was like, what the heck was going on here? Number one, you had there's a photograph, I don't know where you've seen it, and if you look at it, there's basically, out of the 8 cars, there's 7 different manufacturers sitting on the grid. Well, it's not a grid, they're turning into one. You got, Tamiya's, Kyosho's, Mugen's, what was there, an RCL incident. There was all sorts of things coming into the corner. The racing was insane, and it was Izerta, Hirobo, and you're running into a corner and they've all got the $20 motor you get out of your starter kit in the car, and everyone's running those, and everyone was smiling like a lunatic, giggling, and coming off as happy as they've ever been. So you start to go, what are we trying to achieve?
So at the Vintage Class of Champions, so they ran a plastics class, right?
Yeah.
With a similar setup, right? And it was, I won't say it was the most fun to watch, because watching the Legends race was pretty damn fun, but watching there was no question the drivers were having the most fun racing that class. And Chris Von Air, who Ruben mentioned, he raced his original Hot Shot in that class on the original wheels and tires.
Yep.
On a glued surface. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. And he just had a blast. And I told myself, I'm like, the next time they have that race, I'm racing in the plastic class, because it looked like, I mean, you're probably going to break. Everyone's going to have a good time. And I think that in the final race, the winner finished on 3 wheels. They tore off a wheel, and they were the last car running. I don't remember, but it was something crazy like that. And
another thing we can suggest to you guys is there's a class that's hit the books down here. Everyone's running Hornet Evos.
Nice.
Man, I didn't take one up, and I regret it. I'm an idiot. Cookie and Lou turned up with one. The racing in that class was epic. Yeah. Because to get the car around for a fast lap meant you had to, I don't know, it was probably, I was watching you guys, and you do 1 out of 5. 4 laps were a little bit out of control with tank slappers, then 1 lap was a blinder. And it was just the best. And the spectators were piled around the track watching these Hornets going around the track. Massive numbers. How many were up in Chargers?
24, 25?
Yeah, 24.
Yeah, and we got 40-something. Yeah, and we got 40-something entered for the vintage bash.
And that's straight out of the box. No modifications.
Yeah. So I've always said I've had this crazy vision, and I don't know how it would ever work. But I've mentioned it to a few people, but with these RC10 re-release kits, you have a 2. Okay, follow me here. Tell me if I'm crazy. And if I'm crazy, I won't mention it again. But you have a 2-man team, right? You get an RC10 in the box, and the goal is to build it as fast as you can and do as many laps as you can in some period of time. It's kind of like Le Mans, where it's a standing start. You just do as much as you can in the same period of time. I just think it puts this a different skill set where it's building a car that will last and getting as many laps in as you want. And I just feel like it would be super fun in the process.
Team of 2 people. You know what?
Yeah.
You know what they did at Chargers? There's a couple of the guys that really good drivers. They had one on the throttle and one on the steering.
Oh, man.
That was that was
Scary, yeah.
Yeah. It would be like, that's the thing. It's like, just what's fun.
fun.
And, I mean, let's be honest, we're all have busy, crazy lives. The last thing we want to do is make something stressful. I mean, we can be competitive, but you can be competitive and have fun at the same time.
20
Yep.
years ago.
Yeah,
Ruben,
right.
while you're here, because you've been pretty quiet for the last half an hour, quick question. Like, we know that you obviously do the Rubrics cars. You've got the 2. Actually, you got more than 2. You got what is it? You got three versions of the MX4, including a mid motor. But you also do like a YZ10 version. And amongst all those cars, you also do a bunch of parts as well, don't you?
I mean, the RXD is what we decided to call the re-release hop-up line or conversion for the re-releases, and that's actually been a really good, well-received product out there. We not only make the conversion kit that's supposed to, provide more strength to the car and overall, I mean, in terms of the chassis and the top deck, but there's also some other things that we're working on. I just did a little bit of a sneak peek on some C-hubs that we just finished that are going to be available the first week in September. 3mm hinge pin support. That will hopefully later on open up a new options in terms of spindles, but the RXD brings a little bit of that associated integration into the car to bring that reliability and into the car. And B7 wing mount, similar to the same thing that we're doing for the RX4 series of cars. It's there as well in the RXD. Big bore support, big bore shock support is there with the new reinforced towers of the RXD. I don't have one here to show exactly right now, but those go fast. I do have the conversion sets over there, but wish I had a car to show you.
Which car?
The RXD, the one that you have on the screen now. I mean, yeah, you can pull that up. That there provides a couple of things. What I wanted to do with that car was the YZ10 steering that I'm using on the RX4 series, which is part of what Dan is part of with the titanium posts, are part of the RXD as well. The chassis was designed to allow the cross-platform exchange of parts, and the steering was something that I wanted to carry throughout all of the models because it works really well. It retains the YZ10 vintage look steering while integrating the World steering assembly with the top carbon brace and the bottom steerer that Dan makes, but providing the flexibility of using big bores versus small bores, but giving the car strength was the goal. Not having to worry about the towers breaking when you're racing it competitively. We did 3.5mm thickness on the shock towers for that. The chassis 3mm. We brought over a blend of the Rubrik style of design that I like in carbon over to all of the platforms, and the RXD has that. The one thing that we did that was cool for the car was to help the caps on the re-release, which we know they're fragile. It is what it is. The car out of the box is not the most reliable, and that front cap and front impact with the 91 works. It being attached to the front cap broken in many cases. I kept getting a lot of folks telling me, hey, you should do something different to prevent those caps from breaking. So we did the top deck to attach to the front bulkhead and have that screw go straight through to the bottom instead of attaching to the cap, to so that when you would have that front impact, you would have one less thing to worry about that could break. Have the top deck take on that hit, and that was actually something that was done back in the day. So the Halsey, no, Gem and J. What am I saying? The Gem and J top deck actually was similar in that regard, and that was available as a hop up for the YZ10. What was that, Dan? 90, 192, 91 when that?
For the 870 or for the
Yeah,
Workstar?
for the Works, that top deck that the
Right
Gem and
after
J.
the 89 Worlds.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. So 89.98.
So his was a little bit different. His actually, the carbon extended all the way to the back of the front tower to give it a little bit more of that additional support if you had a front impact, and that front tower was to bend back, the top deck would actually stop it. We didn't go into that part of the design, but we at least wanted to make that change for our top deck. And the top deck design is essentially the same design as I have on the RX4 Evo.
And
So brought over that design style over to it. It's been working out pretty well. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. That doesn't have the integrated pulley like the Halsey top deck, does it?
No,
Yeah,
no,
okay.
it's not. What we did instead was the X pattern belt tensioner that you see there in that picture right in the middle. Stands out like a sort of like a man standing with his arms extended and the hands extended. But anyway, the X pattern had to be there. That's proven, showing to provide a little bit of additional flexibility with belt tensioning, which we know is a little bit of a challenge with the re-release car out of the box. So that has the flexibility to now add even two pulleys, one top, one bottom, if you really need to. So that was a cool feature. And then the chassis, I wanted to make it a little bit narrower, a little bit more of, because the stock 870C chassis, for example, was a little bit too bulky, I know, and to make it a little bit more of performance-driven design, I decided to make it a little bit narrower. And given that it's a 3mm chassis, adding those recess areas would bring the weight down a little bit, but doing it with style. And I essentially drew that sort of recess area sections that you see in this chassis on a piece of paper while I was thinking through and figuring out, hey, how can I make this cool? And that's sort of what I came out in a way, and then went to the design board right after that. So just some things that, as they would cross my mind, and figuring out how to provide a race ready pack for re-releases, how it was flowing through my brain. I just started thinking through, and I showed the first proof of concept over at Clash. Dan saw it. He held it. This was before it was even made available. And it's working out really good. I include the belts, front and rear, the LiPo mount setup, the LiPo brace comes with it. Anyway, it's a pretty good seller, and I mean, it really well received. And what else am I missing out of this one? Oh, and obviously, we talked about Dan's Dragon Punch RC's titanium post, which is servo delete. It eliminates the spring-loaded servo saver from the stock car that could be problematic during racing. We've seen it happen, and it can come unwound and lock up your steering, and you're out of the race. Well, modern era servos have built-in servo savers, so do we really need to have that in there, right?
Yeah.
So those are the things that you adjust to now that you're in 2025, and you're like, let's change that. The servo mount was moved to the left. Kind of thought of the weight distribution of the car, while we're at it, why don't we put the LiPo battery really on the opposite side of the motor to balance the weight out, and then move the servo to the left. That was, it deviates a little bit out of that vintage, true vintage out of the box arena, but it is a customization and modernization that I think a change that we're seeing a lot of us do nowadays to meet
So
current racing demands.
Well, we don't run NICAD anymore.
Right.
so
The
Matt
main,
so Mac Mitchell, Ruben, who you know,
Yeah.
he I bought a lot of YZ10s from him, and some of his modified cars were really unique. And he's always raced a ton and raced a lot of different models. But one of the ones that he raced, it was total. He had that stuff flipped like that, and one of them he had flipped like that, and it was a 2-wheel drive conversion.
Yeah.
I never seen that before.
Right.
And it's so. I mean, what you're doing is well within I think what
So
people have been doing.
especially with Yokomo, people used to go crazy.
Yeah.
with
So
the change
we
also.
talked
Yeah.
about that earlier in the conversations that, hey, we were thinking outside of the box at races. Back then in the 90s, if you were at a race and you thought in the moment that a modification could be done to enhance the performance or the handling of the car, you did it on the track. And that
Yep.
deviated the car right on the spot from its stock configuration.
Mhm.
We were doing that back then. There were hop-up lines of products that made the car more reliable. I mean, I just showed you guys the Laser CXR with aluminum arms, which was already kind of a little crazy back then to see that on a car. And because people would think, oh yeah, you're giving strength to the arms, they won't break. But now if you have an impact, where is that strength going to be, or that weakness going to be transferred next? Where you got the hinge pins to worry about now because the arms won't break. But nonetheless, cars were being modified
Yep.
on the go to be able to stay on top and get that podium. So it was a pretty aggressive approach on the innovation and the design aspect of things. And people were cutting the carbon fiber towers at the track if needed, because they maybe were out, and it was either you improvise and you get a flat piece of carbon and you make your own, or you're out of
Yeah.
the race and you're going home. So we saw Masaki. I mean, Dan talked about it earlier as well. Masaki was of that mind. There was no limit, right? There was
Yeah.
no limit in his vision for designing prototypes. It was not we're not going to stay with the routine. I'm going to develop something new, a new edge, and I'm going to go all in. And if that means that I'm getting my Dremel and figuring out how to modify a part to make the next generation part available, then I'm going to do it at the track. Boom.
Yeah.
That
I
was
mean,
one of the
so, like-
big stories that came out of the '89 Worlds with I
Right.
think was it Jay Halsey or his dad maybe started making the
Yeah.
long shock towers, front shock tower for the RC10
Right.
Yeah.
And
at,
the
at the
monocoque.
track at the Worlds.
Yeah, there's
Right.
I don't know if it's true, but I've heard it from multiple sources. But the 91 Worlds was at Freedom Hill, which in Detroit, which 15 minutes from my house. There's stories of Cliff Lett having custom springs made, like during the event, because of the track conditions and stuff. And like, yeah, I mean, it's like people they did crazy things. Like, this isn't quite working. I have to do something different. And it's
Well, what was it? There was the thing of Roger Curtis going around and bending the tubs at the back of the tubs of the alloy RC10s up at a track, and they were at the track. He'd get it and he'd put it somewhere and bend it, and then they'd drill another hole in the motor plate at the track so that they'd handle the rough stuff better. And you're going, there you go. It's no different to anything.
Right.
You're there. You make a change when you need to.
right.
Hey,
Yeah, it's awesome.
Ruben. I think
Yes,
we've got
sir.
a shout out from Chris Vautier from New Zealand.
We know
I think
Chris,
you know
great
him.
guy.
Yeah. So he said
Yeah, I think so.
he'd met you. I think was it way back, like with a Kyosho, I think four drive Kyosho, or
Chris, yeah, Chris Fatier. I mean,
yeah,
he's Team Rubrics.
awesome.
He's going to be at the bash. He's
Yes.
going to have a yeah, an RX4 series. I mean, 97 Worlds prototype there. Scott Petit is going to be there. Did I pronounce his last name correctly?
Pettit.
Pettit. I'm
Pettit,
sorry.
yeah.
I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to butcher that one. But he's going to be there as well. I mean, Nathan Marshy, he's going to be there. Hopefully with his RX4, Rubrik's car, and
Yeah. He had
yeah,
his RX4 there last year as well, actually. Marshy.
Yeah.
yes, we are a little bit so back. Last year's bash was very sort of kind of early on into the Rubrik's program and development, and being able to have the car even ready to be tracked. It was a struggle to be able to reconstruct a prototype from the ground up. It was a challenge. And we were at that time last year during Bash 3.0 where molded arms were not even ready. And I remember dealing, Chris unfortunately had an incident racing his car where he hit a rock and there went his front arm. And it was a bummer because I was not at a point where I could have sent him 10 pairs of arms if I had them available back then, but I didn't have them. We had to rely on old stock vintage parts.
You had to
And
buy
anyway,
cars to get parts.
right.
Unreal.
So that's kind of the stage in which, and Scott raced Nathan's car that I had built for him and shipped to Nathan. And Nathan said, you know what? Scott would be a great fit to race the car for the first time at Bash. He has ties to that car in a way, not that because he raced it at the 97 Worlds, he had a Schumacher, but he had ties to the track, the layout there, the 97, and he figured, you know what, let me have Scott race it, and he did incredible with it and really good for only having a few laps with it before the actual race. And but this time around, we're at a different level in terms of part support, and have plenty of everything. So hopefully that'll be a good. They'll have a better support platform in terms of parts, and we're actively working on getting a support pack care box ready to ship over there, so that the three can take advantage of all the spares that they need to be able to not have to worry about anything breaking. And if it does, then
That was all
have
before
it.
the evolution of your chassis and everything too, right?
Yeah, the Evo at that point had not been. It was in the works, but yeah, definitely not where it is today. It was early stages of that evolution of that car. But all three are going to have the. Let me take this one, the cover off of this one, the body, but it'll have the original classic configuration from Masami's 97 Worlds winning prototype MX4. That's how their cars are going to look, with the top deck shock absorber there, that rough pack that developed in the 97 WCS as a rough track conversion for the YZ10, but Masaki brought that over to the prototype and the MX4. They'll have that. It retains a lot of the original. I mean, it's the original specification car. The towers are going to be like that, with the small bores.
All the Delrin
And
stuff.
the Delrin stuff in the back is going to be there. The under tray that was used back then, which is basically a one piece that has a wrap around the back that acts like the rear cover of the rear gearbox, so that we can keep some of that, the dirt and rocks out of the the pulley,
Oh, cool.
and that didn't get in the way of the belts. So that's all native and original to the car. The tower is obviously the same. Anyway, so that's what they will have over there at Bash. This one actually has, it's a little bit of it's a crossover. So I built this as a crossover of or a hybrid Evo slash stock prototype where it has the tensioner. We saw that a little bit earlier in the RXD as part of the RXD conversion pack. That's the X pattern for this platform of car. And then this one has I don't know if you can see them because the tires, are on, but the aluminum wheel hubs are there, front and back. The C hubs are aluminum. But anyway, and then this one does not have. This one actually has Dragon Punch's servo delete titanium posts. Does not have the carbon brace. So this stayed true to the original car that Masami raced at the Worlds, where the steering buckle is attached to the bell crank directly, like his was. Anyway, so that's a
Very
little
cool.
bit of the
Super cool.
walk through there.
Like all
But
the,
anyway.
like all the blue anodizing.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, there's a lot of interest for blue for sure. Anyway, so Chris Vautier, yeah, hi to that guy. He's definitely been. We started talking very early on. When I was doing the replicas, I started building replicas during that stage when we talked about earlier in the live cast of reconstructing cars, and he was following the work I did with the Masami 93 WCS replicas that I did, then the Mark Pavitas 95 WCS replicas. We used to exchange, thoughts and ideas, parts, everything. So I'm super excited for him to be able to be at Bash 4.0, and he's actually waiting for a slipper to become available for the RX4 platform, the version 3, which was a much needed hop up for the car, because we initially developed a slipper that stayed as true as possible to what was available back then for the MX4, which was a very narrow slipper that could fit in between those very narrow bulkhead sides of that prototype, and therefore it didn't have the spring loaded tunability and flexibility that we wanted really. So now with the version 3, we'll have that. We'll have a spring that will actually come out of the lace shaft mount over here on this side. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see, but currently that's a direct drive, just shaft. But the spring is going to come out of that, and you'll be able to adjust the pressure plates through the side with a drive. And anyway, he's waiting for that. That should be headed over to those guys first week in September. So that's going to be a really big improvement for the car and its performance on the track. So hang tight, Chris.
Awesome. That's Subboy GTR.
Ruben,
That's
fun.
Chris's handle.
Oh, nice. Hey, Chris. Fun fact, Ruben, do you know the first Yokomo that you restored? Do you know where that car came from?
Oh yeah, that is. Let me think. Go ahead.
It's from Nathan. It's from.
Oh,
Nathan
it was
Marsh.
Nathan
Yeah.
Marsh.
Yep.
It was in 93 Works.
Yep.
Didn't that come with a batch of, it was like 3 Yokomos that you had? It was actually one from, I think, Mac Mitchell,
Yep.
right?
And one from Nathan. Yeah.
And one from Nathan. And
Yep.
it's crazy times. But yeah, I made those cars look as best as I could with what we had available in terms of spares, and I think they were.
They were all enjoyed before you got them.
Yeah, the 93 Works from Nathan definitely had some dirt track time for sure before he came to the US.
Yeah, no doubt.
Anyway, look look forward to seeing that footage in Australia for Vintage 4.0. I wish we could make a trip over there, Dan.
I
But
Well,
mean,
you've still got 2 months.
Yeah.
So.
yeah,
Just saying.
not this year.
now we all know what's happening in less than 2 months.
Yeah.
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 But
So we'll
perhaps
pencil it in
next
for
time.
2026 then.
That's right.
Maybe. How long of a flight is it?
Not that long. It's only a few minutes,
No.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't believe you.
Really?
Maybe
not?
stop somewhere on the way. Do a
Yeah.
hop. Yeah.
Go and visit the University of Hawaii or something like that for a bit.
That'd be all right.
yeah, that's an idea.
Yeah. Just leave the wives there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Then you
pick them up on the way back.
Yeah. Good luck. Good luck to that one. Are they listening?
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, 50-50.
Well, guys,
We're
it's been 2 hours and 25 minutes we've been gas bagging away.
Sorry.
No,
What are you apologising for, man? Don't worry. This has been
I'm
awesome.
going to apologise.
Yeah,
I just,
never.
as a member of the Vintage Bash Committee, I'd like to thank you both for jumping on board as sponsors for this year. Hopefully we can get your names and people can see the products and the passion that you have behind everything you do. We'll do everything in our powers to spread that good word.
Yeah.
And yeah, we would love to see you down here maybe next year. Start making plans.
Well, get a Palmer ready for him.
Yeah, what's that?
If we don't plan for it, it'll never happen.
Yeah,
That's it.
That's true.
That's it.
and you got a killer exchange rate, so there's no excuse.
You'll
True.
win. Yeah.
Sure. And as long as you don't expect us to be good drivers, I mean, we'll fit right in.
It doesn't matter,
Perfect.
None of us are. I don't know what you're worried about.
not anymore.
Yeah.
We all used.
I definitely
we
want
used
to
be.
try the dirt track racing. Is definitely something that I need to try. So let's let's hold on that thought. Yeah.
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 But
And Dan can bring
it-
down his JRX Pro and be cool like all the cool kids.
Be like
Yeah.
Lou.
Well, I got something to. I've got some stuff to show you.
Oh, here we go.
I think we need to chat.
Show and tell.
Yeah, that sounds very promising.
I'm going to have to be a fly on the wall for that one.
Awesome.
Hey, Dan, before you go, we never got the why is your company named Dragon Punch?
I'm reflecting, and I'm trying to remember, and I know that Ruben and I have had this discussion, and I've given a couple of different stories, all of which are partially true.
Oh, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story.
But it started out as kind of a joke. Like I think that I sent a package to Ruben as Dragon Punch Co. or something like that, and it was something that I thought of just on the spot. And oddly enough, the night before, the weekend before, we were watching the movie The Neverending Story with my niece and nephew,
The Luck Dragon.
and The
Yeah.
Luck Dragon was
Yeah.
my favorite movie as a kid.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about in the name of the movie, it kind of has escaped me, but it was a karate movie that I liked as a kid. It was kind of a spoof on a karate movie, and I was like, Dragon Punch. That's ironic. I mean, it's kind of
Dragons.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't take myself
No,
too
it's-
serious. That name is clearly identifies that. So, and that, to be honest, like the Masabi schemes and his Dragon Paint schemes, they're my favorite. So, it's just, I wish it was a more exciting answer to it, but I just.
No,
Super
That's
cool.
pretty good.
And
That's super cool. I was going to say that is really cool.
okay,
Don't
so
put it there.
less
Don't.
cool is that I'm a Dungeons and Dragons nerd,
It's
and
not less cool either.
Yeah.
Don't start going down that path. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Right. In fact, that picture over my left corner here, during COVID, me and four of my best friends have played Dungeons and Dragons every Wednesday through COVID. And that's my character. My brother had that commission for me. So
Awesome.
I'm a total dork, but
Awesome.
I don't want
Man.
to whatever.
You and I will get on
Yeah,
fine.
fit-
Don't you worry about that.
fit right
Just us,
in.
Blue and Cookie. Yeah.
But thanks for having us, guys. We really appreciate it.
No, and
Those are coming on.
I just want to say thanks for your stuff too. Looking at Marshy's car is awesome, and it's going to be a bit of thing. But I've got some Dragon Punch titanium screws going into my new RC10 right now, courtesy of Berserk. So it's like, so I'm going, man, I'm going to have to sit there and start pulling apart your whole website, and then sending over some custom things and going, by the way, I'm lazy. I can't be bothered machining this. Can you?
Happy to look at anything. And those guys over at Berserk, they're constantly expanding the product offerings of the things that we're doing, and they're good partners down there. They've got a good reputation with you guys, and it's kind of a natural. I mean, Ruben can attest that trying to find the right distributor internationally isn't always easy. So you find a good partner, you try and stick with them.
Yeah, it's also the quality of your products too, and that's part of the thing. It's like, wanting to do it right, got the parts, picked them up at the Bash committee meeting we had on Thursday, tapped the plastic, put them in, and just went, oh, look, everything just fits perfectly. It's like, man, that's one of my big frustrations. If I buy something, I want it to be designed to what I expect it to be designed. So that's it. And then looking at your car, Ruben, up with Marshy's thing and sitting at the back of his tailgate and looking at that and just going as one boffin buddying engineer, not really qualified, but that looking
Love
at
went
going,
into that one.
oh, I was just sitting there going, if Marshy runs away, I wonder if I can hide this in my suitcase.
Yeah.
You track it down.
Well, yeah.
I'm big enough to scare him, so that's all right.
Hey, well, yeah, definitely want to appreciate you guys putting this together and giving us the opportunity to speak to the Australian Vintage Bash audience, and grateful to be able to sponsor the event, and look forward to supporting the hobby, and not only Australia but everywhere else. And we're all in it with you guys, and cannot get enough. So appreciate for allowing this to happen for everybody. So
we really respect the passion you guys are putting into this, and the kind-hearted approach that you guys are taking to just having a good time.
I think we ended by going, welcome to the tribe.
Yeah.
yeah.
Very good.
Fantastic. Cool. We'll wrap it up. Thank you so much. That was awesome fun, and we'll be chatting and seeing more of you very soon.
Sounds great.
All right.
Have a great day, everyone.
Yeah.
Done.
Have a good one.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.